has the negative side. We are against legalization of marijuana. So first I'll be tackling some of the claims that he mentioned, such as that it has a lot of cost to legalize marijuana. I'll be tackling that it's safer than alcohol. I'll be tackling the fact that it does not affect youth, and I'll also be looking at some of the medical marijuana claims. Okay. So first, looking at the fact that it is costing a lot of money to have it illegal. It actually would cost a lot of money to make it legal as well. So while sometimes it may be argued that there will be a lot of money made after it's being taxed, there was a study that RAND did, which is the Research and Development Project, which is basically a huge database on statistics in California. It's pretty awesome. And they conducted a huge study looking at what some of the ramifications would be if marijuana was legalized and some of the effects that it would have. All right, so they came up with a number looking at some of the other taxes about how much marijuana would be taxed per ounce, and they come up to be about $50 per ounce. So they said that nationally marijuana now accounts for the largest number of treatment episodes, so it's very highly used. An important concern is that the proposed $50 per ounce marijuana excise tax would be much higher than state tobacco taxes, which are all below $5 an ounce. The data on cigarette excise taxes and evasion suggests that states with higher excise taxes have higher rates of tax evasion. Indeed, if their estimated evasion rates are correct, then extrapolating the resulting positive relationship between tobacco tax rates and tax evasion to the $50 per ounce level would suggest that evasion would be much more than complete and no taxes would be collected at all. So if they're highly taxing marijuana, but people are going to be evading the taxes, then the cost for it will be even higher. So there'll already be high costs there, so it won't be making a lot of money to balance out the costs. And some of the extra costs that will come along with it is covered. Kevin A. Sabet, a reporter for the LA Times, he worked at the Office of National Drug Control Policy for the Clinton and Bush administration, said that the likely increase in marijuana prevalence resulting from legalization will probably increase the already high costs of marijuana use in society. Accidents would increase, healthcare costs would rise, and productivity would suffer. Legal alcohol serves a good example. The $8 billion in tax revenue generated from that widely used drug does little to offset the nearly $200 billion in social costs attributed to its use. Right. So although there would be some costs that would be offset by the justice force trying to prevent it, even more costs would be brought up trying to enforce the rules when it is legal. Right. So after that, I'll be looking at the claim that it was safer to use than alcohol. Actually, marijuana is just as harmful as alcohol. According to some statistics from marijuanaaddiction.com, data has shown that people high on marijuana show the same lack of coordination on standard drunk driver tests as do people who've had too much to drink. We also have from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, which is one of the biggest collections of statistics on drug usage, it says that marijuana intoxication can cause distorted perceptions, impaired coordination, difficulty with thinking and problem solving, and problems with learning and memory. So essentially, it's the same sort of things that are coming from alcohol. There are also a lot of statistics on marijuana driving-related accidents. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said that after alcohol, marijuana is the most frequently detected psychoactive substance among driving populations. Marijuana has been shown to impair performance in driving simulator tests and on open and closed driving courses for up to approximately 3 hours. So essentially it has the same effects. So while it may not be drastically different than alcohol, it is still the same, so it would still be a high concern. Next, I will be tackling the idea that children won't be able to attain it, that it won't affect the amount of youth that already use it. And another statistic from the NIDA, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, in 2009, 11.8% of 8th graders reported marijuana use in the past year, and 6.5% were current users. Among 10th graders, 26.7% had used marijuana, and 15.9% were current users. And 12th graders, statistics were even higher. 32.8% had used it, and 20.6% were current users. So they already have access to it. And currently, according to the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, 62% of teens in drug treatment are dependent on marijuana. The problem with this is that not only do they have access to it, but it's more dangerous for them, so it will be causing more harm to children. The Drug Enforcement Administration said that during adolescence and into young adulthood, the brain continues to develop and may be vulnerable to marijuana's deleterious effects. Science has shown that marijuana can produce adverse physical, mental, emotional, and behavioral changes, and contrary to popular belief, it can be addictive. And then the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America showed that using marijuana at a young age can result in structural and functional deficits of the brain. This could cause them to develop weakened verbal and communication skills, lowered learning capabilities, and shortened attention span. So even if the numbers remain the same, it will still be causing more harm. And last, I'll be looking at the use of medical marijuana and some of the benefits it has. The biggest problem with that is first that medical marijuana and smoking marijuana are not the same thing. For medical marijuana, they use medical Marinol, which, according to the Drug Enforcement Administration, the prescription drug Marinol, a legal and safe version of medical marijuana, isolates the active ingredient in THC, which that has been studied and approved by the Food and Drug Administration as safe medicine. The difference is that you have to get a prescription for it. You can't buy it on the street and you don't smoke it. So the one that has a lot of those positive effects is a separate drug that's isolated differently than marijuana that would just be smoked, the type that would be legalized. Right? According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, marijuana is a Schedule I substance under the Controlled Substances Act. Schedule I drugs are classified as having a high potential for use, whereas Marinol is a Schedule III substance under the Controlled Substances Act, and Schedule III drugs are classified as having less potential for abuse than the drugs or substances in Schedules I. Let's see if I find that. Okay. And last, looking at the idea that it's not harmful, marijuana actually, just kidding, I didn't get you guys, that's just like, essentially, looking at the claims that marijuana would be less expensive would actually have a lot more costs. Even though it would get rid of some costs, there would be more that would have to be paid. Claiming that it's safer than alcohol, it's not safer, it has about the same effects. And the youth will still have access to it, and the effects on them are worse, including that it is still harmful. And medical marijuana is not the same as normal marijuana, so the effects would be different.